take you back now to 10th and Rural Police briefing a police-involved shooting there.
There was a physical altercation between the officer and the male subject. A shot was fired during that time. The suspect is deceased here on the scene. That's all we know. And again, we will share additional information as soon as we have it. Every death is a tragedy. So at this point, we're just trying to make sure that we contain the crime scene, protect all of the evidence so it can be thoroughly reviewed at any point in time. We're making sure that, treatment is being given. The female that called in the run had a small child with her in the vehicle. They've been transported downtown for assistance and to be interviewed to make sure that they're okay also. Again, this started with a female who was absolutely terrified in a vehicle calling 911 because she was being hit, and it was nonstop. Updated that they pulled onto the lot here at the gas station. So she was going through a situation where she was absolutely terrified. Our officer responded, engaged in a physical altercation with the male. A shot was fired. So the male is now deceased. Our officer is receiving treatment, and we're investigating as thoroughly and gathering all the evidence that we possibly can.
The shot fired was from...
Was that officer ever in fear for his life?
Yeah, the officer was involved in a physical altercation where a shot was fired. That's a use of force. We review all uses of force. Obviously, the deadly force requires that someone would be fearful for their life to engage in that. And just like every situation, we will always review any use of force, and this will be thoroughly investigated.
Was the shot fired from the officer's gun or the suspect's weapon?
As I mentioned, as we know right now, we do not believe that the male was armed. We do believe that our officer is the one that fired the shot.
And was he hit by a bullet, or was he taken to the hospital because of injuries sustained in the altercation?
I haven't received an update from Methodist Hospital regarding his injuries. He does not have a gunshot wound, I can tell you that.
Do we know the age of the subject?
The age of the subject, I believe he's in his late 30s, early 40s.
Do you know the relationship between the suspect and the woman that was in the car?
Not sure. As I stated, all we know from the vehicle is there was a male, female, and a small child in the vehicle. And she was the one that called 911 in fear because she said the male was hitting her and would not stop.
Do you know the extent of the injuries to the woman?
I do not know. I know she was taken downtown and she's receiving any care that she would need at this time.
How long has the officer been on the force?
He's been on 6 years, I believe. Just over 6 years.
Has surveillance cameras at the gas station captured any of this, do we know?
We don't know, and that's part of the scene processing. I'm glad you asked that. We'll have our forensic evidence come out. There are cameras that are visible on the outside of the building. So, just as the community, I'm sure, is hopeful, we're also hopeful that there is video.
How old is the child, give or take?
I was told toddler, not infant, but toddler.
And that child was not hurt?
I don't have an update on that. I can't say that she's downtown with her mother. The female was her mother. They're downtown now receiving any treatment they would need.
What's your message to the neighborhood when people hear an officer shot someone who wasn't armed? Obviously, in this current climate, it raises concern from people. So I guess what's your message to them about the investigation and how this will go?
Well, first of all, the message is any death is a tragedy, regardless of how that occurs. And if we go through this situation, and I think what they need to have confidence in is, Chief Riggs' commitment to the fact that we will involve the community and we will be transparent and share information as we know it. Tonight I'm telling you as much as we know at this point in time, because you can see behind me, they're going to be here for several more hours processing every bit of evidence. So, this community has been shocked. This has occurred. We've got streets shut down. We have people that have been inconvenienced just by travel through here that want to know what's going on. So there will be follow-up tomorrow. We'll be back out in the community. Assistant Chief Randy Taylor over investigations is out here tonight, and he's out here in the crowd talking to members of the community. And, we're talking to the community. We're sharing as much information as possible. And I appreciate the media being here, and I'm sure this is going out on the live news because we want that information out there. This is part of being as transparent as we can. These are hard questions to answer. It's a rough situation, but, like I said, it's tragic. It's tragic that the female was so in fear for her life that she was on 911 calling for assistance. I mean, it started with that. So, with a small child in the vehicle.
Can you take us back to that initial contact between the officer and the subject in this parking lot
Was he in the car? Was he out of the car? What was that initial struggle?
There's very little that we know. The run was dispatched about 6 minutes after 9, and there was the advisement over our radio at 10 minutes after 9 that a shot was fired. So there's very little that we know. Preliminarily, what I know right now is I believe he was the first officer on the scene and his backup had not yet arrived. So I believe we had a single officer here engaged in the physical confrontation. Again, we're going back through and this will all be put together. You all know on the tape, you can get the 911 tape. I was listening to the radio when it came out. The officer that was involved here, there was a muffled transmission. It sounded like he started to say something, and it was very muffled. So I'm sure that if you all get that tape, you can hear that in there. I assume that's when a struggle was ensuing. But we'll go back through all of that. All the tapes will be pulled, and we have been in contact with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. They're our partner in this investigation. They'll be working with our investigators. They'll be reviewing the case file. They'll be reviewing all the evidence. Again, as we know more information, we'll share.
A live update right there from IMPD on the east side, 10th and Rural. Following an officer-involved shooting, one man is dead. A woman and a toddler now hospitalized following an altercation that had led up to all this. And as IMPD, as you could hear there, said that forced the officer to open fire tonight. One man killed, the officer injured but alive.